Last year, to celebrate the release of X-Men 97, I did a full video going over my whole collection of custom LEGO X-Men minifigures, and to go for that again, this year I have my full collection of Fantastic Four minifigures as of right now, and that is for obviously the new movie coming out. This current collection isn't as crazy as the X-Men one, but there is still a decent amount of characters, and I'm very excited to take a look at all of these with you guys. To start with, we'll go with the only official comic-based minifigure that is directly based on their comic appearance, being Dr. Doom here from, I believe, 2013. So one of the first waves of LEGO Marvel sets, basically. You know, this was from Ultimate Spider-Man, but this was the only Fantastic Four representation in LEGO for so long, but it is an amazing minifigure with leg printing. The torso is perfect. The dark green hood does the job. You can see underneath the hood and the cape, there's a little bit of the gold sort of cape clasps. Probably some amount of back printing, yeah, just some belt wrinkles, but also some of the armor still showing around there, showing some continuity. This is probably one of the best LEGO Marvel minifigures, even though it is older, but being very comic-based, the level of detail is still perfect for this version of Dr. Doom. I would love to see a newer version, I guess, maybe in like a metallic gray or silver instead of the light gray here. But I think the head still really stands out. Maybe a double-sided head there would have been nice for multiple expressions, but this still works. If you have him unmasked, you know, that happens sometimes, but really love this minifigure. And again, this is going to be the only accurate, like, comic Fantastic Four minifigure that we have. There's one more that I don't have in the collection right now, which is Trapster, which I don't know if there's actually a comic version like this. It's from one of the kids' animated shows, but is in one of those kids' Spider-Man sets. So I'll probably track that down eventually, but for now, we got Dr. Doom. And we'll jump into customs now. We have my Reed Richards here, printed by Earthly Bricks, at least for the torso and legs. Really didn't like the head that they came with. I don't like the hair either. I feel like for a Jack Kirby blue Fantastic Four suit, this is the Reed hair you'd want, especially just for the Jack Kirby art. This also replaces the weird printed legs that came with this minifigure with the Oswald the Mouse ones. There's a 3D printed Ultimate Nullifier that was done by Bob's Customs that I picked up a while ago. Still need to paint that silver probably, but pretty plain. It has a little bit of arm printing to insinuate. There are cuff detailings for the gloves, but it doesn't continue all the way around their arms, so it looks a little goofy. Probably could just swap those out for blue arms. And again, the head, I think this is Citizen Brick. I just think that is, again, perfect for Jack Kirby, so that's why I switched that out. And I jumped into the custom. I do not have the official set yet, but I did pick up the Brick Bangers upgrade pack for those minifigures, so when I get that in hand and can find the set on sale, I am going to pick it up and throw those on, so I will have the MCU versions eventually, but for now we have this version of Reed. Another one of the characters I only have one of is Sue at the moment. Again, in the blue suit, came in the same set with a Johnny minifigure we'll look at next. Again, classic, perfect. This does have that kind of spray painted leg set I was talking about, where it tries to make it look like dual molded legs. For the most part, it looks fine. It is a little bit off if you're looking at it very closely with the transitions from side to side. It isn't perfect. I do think these were some of Earthly Brick's first minifigures, so you know, just some inconsistencies. Hopefully they've gotten better since then. I did really like the hair they used for this minifigure. I think it looks good for a lot of different representations of Sue, whether it is in the comics and kind of in the movie, I feel like. Face was fine too, to come with one accessory, and that was a transparent head and hairpiece. I ended up having the torso already, so I was able to throw this together for her, I guess, for a second version of her as her with her powers on. That was a nice little inclusion to kind of mix it up a little bit. The face designs are the same, but I think the colors might be slightly different with the inks that they used for the clear version. But it was nice to get her powers in some way. Got to get some power-ups for her to represent her force fields probably at some point if I'm going to mock these up at any point. But it was a good start for these Fantastic Four minifigures. I have more on pre-order we'll look at later. And for the upcoming version of Johnny, it'll be the same torso and legs that the Reed would have. Obviously, the spray-painted versions instead, and has the flamed on eyes there with some fire. So that's a nice look and some good transition piece for between the flamed on, you know, sort of full flame look. So that is kind of cool and unique. I don't know if I've seen a lot of those from other people, and I do like it as the more serious, like he's going to go into a fight look. I'm kind of iffy on people making their Human Torch minifigures with only smile heads. I feel like you need to do both, and this is a good representation of a little bit of a less serious Johnny. Speaking of Human Torch, we have one of those too. And this Johnny is going to be one of the better customs I have for the main team, obviously, since it is, again, on transparent orange, but actually printed parts. And I believe there is some amount of activity to UV light, so that is also cool to see more of the flame effects. And that continues all over the place on the arms, on the legs. A lot of minor detailing that is pretty hard to notice if you don't have a UV light. So a lot of attention to detail put into this minifigure, but I do have more Human Torch minifigures coming, so I'll probably end up getting rid of this one actually, which is kind of sad since this is one of those ones I really wanted to track down and did end up getting. But wraparound on the torso is nice for the belt on all four sides. Boot detailing, again, looks pretty good too. Not on the inside, but on the outside with that extra flame detailing. It looks great, but I already kind of brought it up. The smiley look here just doesn't do it for me. That is the goofiest part of this minifigure, where I don't really like smiles for a character like this, or at least only having a smile. I need at least two different options, one that's more neutral or more serious, since he could be battling Galactus, and he's probably not smiling during that. Unfortunately, this is going to be the last custom I have for the main team right now, so I don't have an official or custom The Thing minifigure, but I do have some bootlegs. For The Thing, I have basically two different representations of him, four different takes though, where there's like the more tannish one with a big fig, and then the smaller fig, and then the bright orange. Again, big fig and minifigure. These three are from my childhood. This one's more modern. I would never really want to use this one at this point. At the moment, from what I have in hand, this would probably be my favorite version. Do like the molded detailing. You know, it does have the Hulk pants still for the mold, which is a little goofy. I like the idea of this one with the more rocky texture kind of printed on it. Didn't turn out great with the face though. Probably could customize this up a little bit to make it better. And I was interested to check this one out. Nothing crazy to really point out with this one. Just has molded detailing on the arms. It's orange. Looks good. If you want to go the big fig route, but for The Thing, not a great scale since this is him next to Mr. Fantastic. Way too big. He should be a little bit bulkier, but not this much taller. For this one, again, same sort of thing where it has the Hulk rips in the pants. This one does not have a 4 printed on it at all, so kind of just a lesser figure, and I will toss these ones on the stand quick. For this first one, very simple. I think this is the D-Cool non-Big Fig version. Pretty straightforward. I feel like maybe in the 2012s, Lego would have done something like this if they weren't going to spend for a big fig. Just the front and back printing there, a little bit on the leg with the 4. You could definitely find art of this from like the 2006-ish era, so it's not inaccurate in any way, just going to be the same size as all the other minifigures, which again, isn't necessarily super inaccurate, but maybe not everyone's preferred look. And for the next Thing minifigure, I wanted to check this out as a bootleg. Saw it online, was kind of interested in the molded parts, maybe some customization opportunity here. Definitely feels very inspired by the movie look for The Thing, and has some rock printed on there, not the best. You know, kind of the printing on the torso makes the proportions look a little bit weirder. I did notice like the material on here feels very like acrylic paint. There is range of motion, but it is super tight, probably again because of the coating, so don't like doing that. Feels a little bad, like it's gonna break, but it's probably just a lot of friction. Same for the hands, where they do spin, just feels a little weird. And I noticed on the head, if you spin it any amount, the back of the head is not printed with the material at all, which makes it just look really weird. And I don't know, it's not perfect, but it is a good canvas for making something. And the Atlas Thing minifigure, even the abnormal one that I also have on pre-order, is going to be way better than this. In addition to the Atlas full Fantastic Four set, I also bought pretty much all of the ones that Abnormal did. Really like the special effects pieces. For the Human Torch now, probably shouldn't have bought that one, which is unfortunate. Maybe I can get rid of that one. But very excited for Herbie from both companies. Interested to see how those compare in person. And of course, just getting different power effects for especially Mr. Fantastic. I feel like those are going to be the more interesting ones. Just really hoping they'll come at some point. You know, they tried. It looks decent, and for like $1-ish, it's not the worst option. And one more Fantastic Four suited character, I have Bombastic Bagman here, which was by Funny Bricks, which is a spinoff of, I believe, Life Brick now, but really loved this minifigure. The color, it doesn't match anything I have right now, but will match the Fantastic Four set I picked up from Atlas, which I love the color of because it is like the Marvel Legends I have. So it's going to fit in perfectly with that. And in addition to those minifigures, I did also pick up these same designs, but also in the blue and white. So looking forward to getting those too, which will also have Thing minifigures that'll be a little bit better than the bootlegs I already showed off. The Big has great texturing and isn't super tight on the head. You get the goofy expression there, which we won't see pretty much ever, but another fun little detail. Honestly, one of the best representations of this character, and this is just a great design for a Fantastic Four suit. So that's another reason why I'm glad to have it. The Kick Me sign also is just a perfect topper. Let's move out of the specifically Fantastic Four member realm. And that'll just be going over the Ling Royal Family, which I've already done reviews on. Black Bolt, great figure, wraparound torso for the like belt design. The silver looks nice. A little bit of UV activated printing for his power on his head. A little harder to notice, and of course he doesn't have a screaming head, which was a bummer, especially with the power up. Doesn't make sense for him to have it if he isn't screaming, but looks good. The arms have a little bit of a extra shape to them, not just, you know, straight lines. So that was a nice detail too. Probably couldn't ask for more other than some custom molded arms for his like wing look, but it is a good take for the character. And going to the Royal Queen next, this is going to be one of the minifigures that's the hardest to display in my collection just because the hairpiece is so big. It is nice though, it lays flat on the ground next to the leg so it isn't going to tip over as long as you have this straight up and down neutral look. It's a little bit more simple though, it just has the arm printing and the torso printing. I can't remember if this has inside arm printing or not. Looks like it does, so at least it still has that. Only the one-sided face again, with kind of a half smile, kind of. Mostly just an open mouth, kind of duh face. But it looks good. I do really like the texture on the hairpiece. It is a little tough to get off and on, so that's a little bit unfortunate, but great to have Medusa in one of her looks. I guess I kind of would like another version that could be kind of a Frightful Four version, but this is still pretty dang good and more to look at. Like Medusa's sister, Crystal, who is surprisingly the only modern designed character from this lineup, which I did point out at the time in the review. So it isn't going to be her classic comic look, which again just kind of is a bummer because it throws off the look of the whole team that everyone isn't designed consistently. This does add more detailing to her costume to make it more, you know, interesting, I guess. But the design printed around the hairpiece looks great and adds even more interesting detail. I do really like how that turned out. Other than that, you know, you got the boot printing, arm, shoulder pads, which is pretty much the only arm printing. Inside the like boot printing to continue that design. Looks good. It just would be nice if it was a classic comic look to match everybody else, but still exceptional. Another one that's kind of hit or miss is their Gorgon, which does kind of use the fawn legs here. It is a custom piece though, I'm pretty sure, not an exact one of the Lego. Probably, I mean it could be. It has the same sort of weird thing you bend the legs where there's the gap on the top there, but at least it is printed all the way to give the pants the continuity that it needs. The arms are a little bit cheaped out where you can see on the outside there's a black line with the silver, on the inside just silver. And the hairpiece has like a ding in it on the like, I guess crown, tiara, whatever you want to call that band on his head. But you know, it is nice. It does have the special legs. The extra little cape wraparound piece is also nice and adds extra detailing, which they probably could have just printed if they wanted to. Don't know if I love the arm printing with the muscles. That looks a little bit goofy and probably could have been left off to make it a little cheaper, I guess. But not the worst. Not the best though, maybe. Especially since it is damaged, it looks like. But still glad to at least have a version of this character in the collection. And getting to Triton, who had two heads. If you want to see the other one, you can check out the review on its own. A very cool molded trident piece there to match the character too. I think this one has some of the better printing with these scales going all the way around. Molded headpiece looks very cool as well. I don't really feel like I have any complaints here for a character like this. Just looks very cool, and I'm glad to have it. We have one more real family member, and we have Karnak, who is, again, a simple character. Very classic design here, but the face looks great. The weird helmet piece looks very cool. And even for a character that is minor like this, I loved Inhumans growing up, so I made my own custom version where I damaged a classic Green Goblin torso with some Sharpie paint pens. I'm sure a lot of people have done that, but felt like I really needed to make this character back then for some reason, but happy to have a more official version with this custom. Great printing again, wraparound arms, wraparound legs for boots and gauntlets, and the extra little color on the helmet is very appreciated. Love this figure, and the character kind of has a soft spot in my heart. We got one more Inhuman, and that'll be Maximus, who is the character I got the most recent because it wasn't part of the original 6 lineup. This was a collab between Bob's Customs and Ling, so a little bit different. The molded parts on this are great. You can see the more in-depth look at the figure in the review that I have on the channel, but I actually missed something for the original review where this had another head in the package, so I'll toss that on quick. And I'm not sure how I missed that, but it has a more just smirk and neutral look. I do like the maniacal laughing one a little bit more, but I think this is probably the best done out of all of the Inhuman minifigures that I have that I just showed off. Great detailing, lots of colors, more intricate line work. Just looks really great. Let's go to another villain, also by Ling and Bob's Customs, being the maker here. Probably could have put this by Reed to kind of keep the continuity of the characters all together, but alternate universe, different character. Mold on this is very cool. No guns or anything to go with them. I know a newer version of the character being made also includes that. Another character with a little bit of UV reactivity, I believe. Not as noticeable with the lights on. Getting them off, you can see right there, it does glow blue a little bit when it's a little bit more on the outside of the light. So nice effect. Kind of appreciate when custom companies do that to give them kind of a cool effect. It's a plain minifigure though, black legs, just the torso print, and the face print also looks cool. Kind of a more popular character after the newest Secret Wars series, and glad to have had this, especially since I think he's in Marvel Rivals, so glad to be ahead of the boat on having him. Another comic villain, sometimes not villain, we have Ronan the Accuser here by MRM, which has this quick little printing on the hammer on both sides to give that a better look. Other than that, it is pretty simple based off the video game design, so nothing crazy, but it does have printed arms, which are nice with the yellow and black striping on those. And I do really like the head here where it has the yellow triangle, which matches his hood design, and the blue looks good on black, which something like this Lego would really struggle with. Would love to see more of the characters like this that are a little bit more obscure, but also kind of bigger in the overall Marvel universe. I have the first comic that Ronan appeared in for Fantastic Four, actually, that I got pretty bad damaged, but pretty good price. And thought, why not? But I think this is my favorite MRM minifigure, maybe one of the Jeans or the Phoenix, but really, really like this one. Another great classic design for a comic villain is Mole Man here by Minibigs. The torso, I believe someone pointed out to me, is actually the collectible minifigure sumo wrestler, but on a green torso, obviously. And the line color is probably a different color. Does have a really nice pair of short legs where it does have the brown printed all the way around. So that is a nice little bit of detailing to give it a more consistent look. He has his staff, which is just a normal Lego bar piece, and the head has a nice angry expression, which is very reminiscent of the Captain Gold one, but not an exact copy or anything like that. I don't believe there is a second expression on this one, just gonna be blank on the back there. But really glad to have one of these. I gotta build a Giganto at some point, maybe for Brick World. That would be kind of fun. And I could display all the Fantastic Four, which would be kind of nice. Really happy that Al made this, since he doesn't always make comic characters or Marvel characters. Kind of hit or miss what he does, but turned out great, and it is just perfect comic representation. Another classic comic character that appeared in the MCU in some capacity in the What If series was Watcher. We got a Lego minifigure of him with a, smaller head here. I took off the main blue cape to use for something else at some point, so I got to track down another one of those, but for what it was, this was a pretty good representation, but I improved it with another custom part by Citizen Brick with their big head to make the, iconic version of the Watcher with a larger head, more alien-like. Another fun fact, I do have the first appearance of the Watcher in Fantastic Four number 12, so that is another key issue in my comic collection. Looks a little bit better, the face isn't super well designed since it is very generic, but having a larger head like this for a character like this would have made it even better. And of course, with the Watcher, we have the coming of Galactus, starting with, his herald being the chromed up version of Silver Surfer by Ling. Looking great, pretty, simple design. I can't remember if this is specifically the video game version or not. Trying to cover up the lighting a little bit so you can see the face. I mean, it's perfect. You got the chromed out surfboard as well with the black. I did notice when I pulled it out this time that the head isn't pressed down all the way, and I don't think it can be because of the chrome coating. So a little bit weird of a look, but it's an alien character. Not going to be like as hard to defend that it should be different since maybe has slightly different anatomy than a normal character. So I'll give it the pass there. And, having the chrome look here is also just unique and special for a character like this. I also have the Atlas version of him on pre-order, which will be, kind of a less reflective silver, but still going to be reflective. Excited to check that out eventually. And this is another just cool figure to have. Now going on to some technicalities with some more MCU characters. Black Panther also appeared in Fantastic Four for the first time, so I'd count him as a Fantastic Four character. This is the only version of T'Challa I have in Ohio with me. So that's a bummer. There are better versions that Lego made for him in his comic look. There are some customs in his comic look that are also better. Probably going to track down the mini-bigs and MRM Black Panther. One of the colors at some points, I think that is cool, but I think SJ Bricks has the best version of the comic look. And going off of him and another MCU character, we have Atuma, which was in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Another character that first appeared in Fantastic Four in the villain roster for Atlantis and more of like the Namor side of things. Looking very good, probably one of the better official MCU minifigures they've done in a while. I could probably toss Namor in here since he kind of reappeared in the older Fantastic Four issues, but he obviously didn't first appear. So it's hard to call him a Fantastic Four character, but you could kind of spin it as one, but glad to get another character. And sorry, but that kind of wraps it up for today. But of course, that would only be for minifigure scaled characters. We got the Galactus here by Ling and the huge lamp look, and this is obviously the crowning achievement in my collection to have one of these. 1 out of 53. Very rare, very cool. Obviously a bit expensive, but no one's going to make a better Galactus than this. It's not classic comic, which is a bit of a bummer, but having more detailing makes it a little bit more impressive maybe, and a little bit more worth the price, but really can't top this. Let's go to some comparisons and the final verdict. Not quite as filled as my X-Men collection is right now, but still a pretty respectable collection of characters made by a ton of different brands and custom creators. So thankful for them for making Fantastic Four minifigures. Definitely a lot of my stock in this sort of lineup is in pre-orders right now, figures that I'm really excited about. So probably more to come in the future for this sort of lineup of characters. For the Inhumans, that's already probably the best versions I can get. Same for maybe the Silver Surfer even. The Watcher probably could have an upgrade, and you could argue some different things. I have a custom Doctor Doom coming in also from Atlas. Probably no one's going to make Mole Man, but there are still a ton of characters I want. I want Annihilus. I want Molecule Man. Whatever other obscure characters, Mr. Impossible. I'm down if anyone wants to make them, and this isn't even everybody. I did bring out the fact I don't have Trapster. I could even throw in like Adam Warlock if I wanted to, since I think he also appeared first in Fantastic Four. Tons of things. She-Hulk, would love her in a Fantastic Four suit. I think I did already pre-order one of those, so maybe someday. But really need Lockjaw. I think that is where I'm at right now for a character I would need Lockjaw to finish the Inhumans. Trying to think of other things. I guess I could use Franklin and Val. Not really for my era of characters I would really care about. But man, I'm so excited for all the Atlas minifigures. Definitely going to shake up my collection on what I might want to keep. So I could definitely see myself getting rid of these Earthly Brick Fantastic Four minifigures, but also the classic blue and black. So I don't know if I can, but the Dark Azure I think is the way to go for my collection. But man, really glad again people are making more characters from Fantastic Four. Especially since the movie came out, we finally got official minifigures. Excited to get those eventually. I think the Galactus build looks great. And really excited for the movie, and I can't wait to see it tomorrow. If you want to see more LEGO Marvel or custom LEGO Marvel videos specifically, check out all the content on my channel. If you want to help out the channel a little bit, feel free to join as a member for some extra perks. Like always, I have been Brick Radiop, and I'll see you in the next video.